Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. And yes, I do know that today is April Fool's Day, but I will not fool you with this episode of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, because it is also Wednesday, which means it's the day when I answer your questions. Ask me anything. So if you did not get a question in this week, or you submitted a question, but for some chance I just did not see it, don't worry. I'll answer it next week. But if you didn't get a question in, you can send those to me, and I will answer them next week. ama@fppradio.com is the email address to do that. So I've got a fairly lengthy question that has a couple of parts here. So the question begins, do anti-texting while driving laws actually increase safety? If there is already a law against distracted driving, is there a need to pass a law that specifically bans texting while driving? What are the pros and cons of making it illegal to text while driving? In your opinion, how likely is it that enforcement of such laws will be abusive, i.e. ticketing or fining someone for texting while driving when they are in fact talking on their phone or using the phone's navigation? So let me begin with the first question. Do anti-texting while driving laws increase safety? Or, you know what? I'm not going to begin with that one. I'm going to begin with, if there is already a law against distracted driving, is there a need to pass a law that specifically bans texting while driving? Now, I am not an advocate for passing new laws for things. I am, however, an advocate for repealing things, but seeing as how I am not a legislator, and I guess in some ways I do kind of think like one to some extent, and I mean that in like the best way possible, because there are some legislators that they will, think of things and they're like, oh, there must be a law for this. And I think of things and I'm like, no, we must prevent a law from being done for this. And the legislator will think, well, if we repeal this, then the slippery slope and blah, 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 and then babies with MK-47s or whatever and blah, 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 et cetera, blood in the streets. I look at things and I'm thinking, wait a second, if you pass this, then the next step is this, and at some point in the future there will be somebody coming into my house to round off all the corners and install seat belts on my toilet because we can't have people bumping into corners and falling off of toilets. We must remove showers and bathtubs. Now, you still have to clean yourself, but we have to remove showers and bathtubs because people fall in those, people drown in those. So you cannot, shower or bathe in a manner in which somebody dies, because remember, if it just saves one life. So I will look at things and then take it to the, what I consider the logical conclusion of tyranny. So that is what I mean when I say in some ways I think like a legislator. So on the distracted driving, this has been like a button for me for a while, or a trigger, or whatever it is you want to call it, to where there are so many things that distract people while they're driving. Ooh, pretty girl walking down the sidewalk. Let me change the radio station. Oh, I like this song, start singing along, and then you're starting to think more about the song than what's happening on the road. Or you're listening to talk radio and you start yelling at Rush Limbaugh. I know that's what happens when I listen to Rush Limbaugh. I start yelling at him because he's so full of it. So I'm distracted in that way. Some people are distracted with other passengers in the vehicle. They might not think that they're distracted, but I know you've had a conversation with somebody while driving, and then the next thought in your mind is, how did I wind up here? because the last thing I remember, I was on 22nd Street. How am I on 31st? Or your thought is, wait, did I drive by my exit? Because you subconsciously get distracted with the conversation, not paying attention to what you're doing. So there are so many ways that people get distracted. You could get distracted by other vehicles because, oh, that a-hole doesn't know what he's doing. And then you forget that, oh, you wanted to turn there. Like, instead, you got cut off, so now you're going to go get revenge on the person that cut you off. There are so many things that cause distractions that really the only logical way to enforce distracted driving is to pull everybody over and give them a ticket for distracted driving and then let them fight it out in court. So I guess from that standpoint, yes, there is a need to clarify what distracted driving actually means. Does distracted driving mean I'm eating a French fry while I'm driving? Does distracted driving mean I'm changing the channel on my radio while I'm driving? Does distracted driving mean that I'm yelling at the 4-year-old in the back seat, "Don't make me come back there"? You know who you are that's doing that. And yes, that is distracted driving. I don't think that you should get a ticket for it. I'm not advocating that at all. But what I'm advocating for, and based on the question here, is there a need to pass another law that specifically bans texting? And I would say that you don't necessarily need to specifically ban texting if there's already the law on distracted driving, but there should be clarification of what is distracted driving. So on that sense, it makes sense in my mind to clarify the distracted driving statute to say that includes using a mobile device for the following purposes. And let me answer the next question of, in my opinion, how likely is it that enforcement of such laws will be abusive, i.e. ticketing people for texting when they are in fact talking on the phone or using the navigation system. And I would say that it is very likely that that will happen. There are some places to where you can't even talk on the phone if you're holding the phone. And there's a new no texting statute here in New Hampshire that is written in such a weird, obscure way to where if you have some sort of speech-to-text thing built into your car, that's fine, you can use that. But you cannot use a speech-to-text on your cell phone. You can't use the cell phone for navigational purposes if other things are also able to be done while navigating on the device. So, like, you can use a GPS, but if the GPS is on your phone, then that's kind of tricky and iffy, and they might wind up ticketing you after July 1st. There's also a new law in Mississippi that was just signed in, and that's the reason that I got this specific question, is because the person asking the question lives in Mississippi. So when we come back, I will answer with some empirical data. Do anti-texting laws actually increase safety? On Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Coinbase is a simple and secure online Bitcoin wallet for sending, receiving, and storing Bitcoin. Coinbase also allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin using a bank account or use their tools to accept Bitcoin as a merchant. Opening a wallet is quick and easy, and for merchants, there are no transaction fees on the first $1 million worth of transactions. Get started at coinbase.fppradio.com. When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for t-shirts, precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. There's an Amazon shopping iframe built into the website, or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. That's shop.fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. Something that will not distract you while driving, unless, of course, you're trying to read a book while driving, which is definitely not advocated or condoned at all. Survivor Max by Davi Barker. In Survivor Max by Davi Barker, 11-year-old Max must survive the zombie apocalypse alone in New Hampshire. Slow-moving and non-thinking, the lame brains swarm his home searching for living flesh. Max must apply his Porcupine Freedom Scouts training in his plan to escape. But first, he must prove that he's too smart to die. Look for Survivor Max on Facebook, but not while driving, on Amazon, also not while driving, or read Chapter 1 for free, again, not while driving, but you can read that for free, Chapter 1 for free at survivormax.com. And if you have teenage or preteen children that like to read, get them Survivor Max. I am sure they will love it. survivormax.com. So the question in the Ask Me Anything is pertaining to anti-texting while driving laws, and do they increase safety? Well, thankfully, there is this wonderful device called Internet. There's actually several Internets, but like the main one that most of us get on. And there's this wonderful machine called the Google machine. So I did a search, and I found several studies. Some of these are news reports on studies, and some of them are the reports from the institute that did the study. And I will begin, and yes, I do have more recent information, but I will begin with a study from September 2010 from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety Highway Loss Data Institute. And yes, that is a mouthful. The IIHS-HLDI. And their report begins. It's illegal to text while driving in most U.S. states. Yet a new study by researchers at the Highway Loss Data Institute finds no reduction. Let me repeat, no reduction in crashes after laws take effect that ban texting while driving. In fact, such bans are associated with a slight increase in the frequency of insurance claims filed under collision coverage for damage to vehicles in crashes. The finding is based on comparisons of claims in 4 states before and after texting bans, compared with patterns of claims in nearby states. The new finding, released, it says today, but obviously it was not today, it was September 28th of 2010, at the annual meeting of the Governor's Highway Safety Association, are consistent with those of a previous HLDI study, which found that banning handheld phone use while driving does not cut crashes. HLDI is an affiliate of the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. HLDI researchers calculated rates of collision claims for vehicles up to 9 years old during the months immediately before and after driving, or rather driver texting bans in the following states: California, Louisiana, Minnesota, and Washington State. Comparable data were collected in nearby states where texting laws weren't substantially changed during the time span of the study. This controlled for possible changes in collision claim rates unrelated to the bans, such as changes in the number of miles driven due to economy, seasonal changes in driving patterns, etc. Adrian Lund, the president of both HLDI and the IIHS, says texting bans have not reduced crashes at all. In a perverse twist, crashes increased in 3 of the 4 states we studied after bans were enacted. It is an indication that texting bans might even increase the risk of texting for drivers who continue to do so despite the laws. Now, let me just give my sort of thoughts here on why. Why would a texting ban increase crashes in 3 of the 4 states where such bans went into effect? Well, my thought is because the texter wants to make sure that his phone is not visible to other drivers, because one of those other drivers might be, yeah, you guessed it, a police officer. The phone will then be held down low, maybe on the lap, maybe on the next seat. So the person will be looking down to text instead of looking sideways towards the phone, which still looking sideways, still, not preferential, but at least then you're seeing the road at least out of the periphery, if not out of like the secondary part of the eye, to where you're kind of one eye focusing on the phone, one on the road. But if you're having to look down completely away from the road, then your eyes are in no way seeing the road even out of the periphery. So that would make texting more dangerous instead of less. The study, or rather the report here, continues. HLDI's new findings about texting, together with the organization's previous finding that handheld phone bans did not reduce crashes, call into question the way policymakers are trying to address the problem of distracted driving crashes. They're focusing on single manifestations of distracted driving and banning it. This ignores the endless source of distractions and relies on banning one source or another to solve the whole problem. And they do have some charts here that I am not in any way going to try translating from a chart method to spoken method, because there's no way that I could relay this in a way that made sense. They do continue by writing, month-to-month fluctuations in the rates of collision claims in HLDI's 4 study states with texting bans for all drivers did not change much from before to after the bans were enacted, nor did the patterns differ much from those in nearby states that did not ban texting for all drivers during the study period. To the extent that the crash patterns did change in the study states, they went up, not down, after the bans took effect. Increases varied from 1% more crashes in Washington state to 9% more crashes in Minnesota. The result in Washington isn't statistically significant, they write. And what they mean by statistically significant is something outside of like the margin of error. And I've seen this before, to where it's one of the things of scientific terms that are misused by normal people, and statistically significant was one of them. But really what that means is something outside the margin of error. So if margin of error is 3 and the result is 4, well, that's statistically significant because it's outside of that margin of error. There's more when we come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
The Doublespeak Dictionary by Leslie Starr O'Hara satirizes the marked difference between the ideal of we the people and the reality of we the elite, while offering an insightful glimpse into the clockworks of the totalitarian mind. Ever irreverent but never irrelevant, the Doublespeak Dictionary serves as a subversive and humorous but timely reminder that the emperor has no clothes. The Doublespeak Dictionary is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for t-shirts, precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. There's an Amazon shopping iframe built into the website, or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. That's shop.fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. Now, I will finish with the answer to the question. I know it seems as though I've already answered the question, but again, that was a study from 2010. There has to be more recent data, right? And yes, there is. So I will give the more recent data. But first, I want to make sure that I tell you about Roberts and Roberts Brokerage. For over 35 years, actually since 1977, Roberts and Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid with Bitcoin. Call Roberts and Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on investing and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 850-478-5270 or visit them online, rrbi.co. That's rrbi.co. So let me go from the 2010 study from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety to a more recent report. This from, no, I'm not going to do the one from 2012. I will instead do the one from, I believe this is 2014. Yes, July of 2014 from Journalistic Resource. And they write, the good news, over the last century, driving has become significantly safer, with the per-mile fatality rate dropping 90% between 1925 and 1997. The bad news, motor vehicle crashes continue to kill more than 33,000 people in the United States every year, making them the leading type of unintentional injury resulting in death, and fatalities rose in 2012, snapping a 6-year streak of reduced deaths. In reporting the increase, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration stated it is too soon to speculate on contributing factors, but the potential role of distracted driving cannot be ignored. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in 2012, distracted driving was a factor in 3,328 deaths, and an estimated 421,000 people were injured in crashes involving a distracted driver, a 9% increase from 2011. So just right here, it does sound as though distracted driving in and of itself is fairly dangerous. And I don't think anybody is trying to say that distracted driving is not dangerous. And that was not the question. The question was, do cell phone use laws, specifically texting while driving laws, make it safer to drive? And they do talk about that in here. So let me continue. They write, many states pass laws to reduce the number of deaths and injuries due to distracted driving. These laws may ban all use of handheld devices or specifically prohibit texting. Some laws target young drivers while others apply to all drivers. As of June 2014, 44 states and the District of Columbia had a law banning all drivers from texting, and an additional 4 states prohibited young or new drivers from texting. No state currently bans the use of hand-free phones for all drivers, even though resources have shown they offer no improvement over handheld devices. A June 20, or not June, I don't know where the word June came from. Here, a 2014 study published in the American Journal of Public Health impact of texting laws on motor vehicle fatalities in the United States looks at effectiveness of state texting bans on the prevention of fatal car accidents. The researchers, Alva O. Ferdinand, Nir Minichimi, Bisaka Sin, Justin L. Blackburn, and Michael Morrissey, based at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and Leonard Nilsson, based at Samford University, also in Birmingham, analyzed data from 48 states over the period 2000 to 2010. Alaska, Hawaii, and the District of Columbia were not part of the study. The authors compared motor vehicle fatalities in rates with texting bans and those without. For states with texting bans, they also took into account within state fatality rate changes before and after the laws took effect. The study's finding includes: during the study period, 31 of the 48 states had a law banning texting while driving. Of these, 24 states banned all drivers from texting, and 7 banned only drivers below a certain age. Laws allowing police officers to pull over all drivers who are texting, regardless of age, resulted in a 5% reduction in the incidence of fatal accidents among individuals 15 to 21. This figure includes death of both driver and non-driver. States with laws that only allow police to pull over young drivers who are texting experienced an 11% drop in the incidence of motor vehicle fatalities for individuals 15 to 21. Secondary texting bans, which only allow police to issue texting citations while pulling over a driver for an unrelated offense, had no effect on fatality rates for any age group, and no type of anti-texting law reduced fatality rates for individuals over the age of 21. Other factors that were associated with reduced motor vehicle fatality rates included maximum speed limits not exceeding 70 miles per hour, administering driver's license revocation laws, graduated driver's license laws, higher gas prices, and higher rates of unemployment. The authors concluded, quote, our analysis indicates that primary enforcement texting laws are associated with fatality reductions among younger individuals, both driver and non-driver. Thus, our second main finding is that our results provide strong evidence that the primary enforcement texting laws seem to be reaching the intended subpopulations who are most at risk for texting while driving. So here you have what seems to be conflicting data, but at the same time, this data says that no type of anti-texting law, meaning primary or secondary, reduced fatality rates for individuals over the age of 21, which seems to correspond with the data from 2010 that no, texting while driving bans do not make the roads safer. Might make the roads safer for a small segment of the population, But overall, no, it doesn't. Pros and cons, well, on the one side, they're going to look at this study and say, well, see, we're saving the lives of young people. On the other hand, where does it end? Are you going to make it illegal for me to eat while I drive? Just ban driving. If that's what you want to do, ban driving. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, AMA at FPPradio.com.